Let's sculpt a penguin using Crayola Model Magic. This project uses 3 ounces of white Model Magic. The 1 ounce packages are pre-portioned, or you can use a larger package and portion it yourself. We will also be coloring the white. If you prefer, you can buy color Model Magic to avoid that step. It's really hard to make white into black, so if you want a traditional black and white penguin, buy black Model Magic. Start with 2 ounces. Squish and knead that together. Pulling or stretching helps to soften and mix the Model Magic. Then roll that into a sphere. I use a plate to keep the Model Magic from sticking to my messy mat. Keep rolling until the sphere is really round and smooth. If the piece looks like it's a little bit too big, you can always trim it off just like I'm doing with a pair of scissors. But save that extra piece for later. Keep rolling until the sphere is smooth with no creases. In hand to roll back and forth to make more of a cylinder shape. Now you want to then taper that cylinder on one side to get more of an egg shape. So you want to do that by using your hand to roll back and forth, but on just one side instead of in the center. This will make one end thinner while keeping the other end thicker. This is going to become the penguin's main shape. The thinner top side will be where the head is, and the thicker bottom end will be where the feet will attach. Next, gently tap the thicker bottom end onto your work surface to flatten it a little bit. This is going to prevent it from rolling away, and it will let the penguin stand upright. The piece that we cut off earlier is the perfect amount to set aside to make the penguin's feet. Now from the remaining 1 ounce pouch, cut off another small piece and set that aside for the beak. Combine it with the piece that you have for the feet. Cut off another piece that is about equal to the combined piece of the feet and the beak, and set that aside because that is going to become the penguin's flippers. Move them out of the way for now. Flatten out the remaining larger piece with your fingers, almost like you're stretching pizza dough. You can also use a tool like a marker to roll it out even flatter. Now use a marker to add some color. This is the part that would typically be black on the penguin, but mine will be blue. You can use any color you like, but darker colors do mix a little bit better. Color the surface of the flattened Model Magic with your chosen color marker. I'm also adding a little bit of black to mine. Black marker usually comes out a bluish green when mixed with Model Magic, so it works well with the blue marker that I'm already using. Roll up the Model Magic so that the color part is on the inside. This keeps too much marker from getting onto your fingers, and it keeps it on the Model Magic where you want it to be. Then just smush and squish it until all the color is mixed in. If it's not all mixed in, the Model Magic will look marbled, which is a cool effect, but maybe not for a penguin. To get the color darker, flatten out the Model Magic and repeat the coloring step as many times as you feel you need to. Once the color is completely mixed in, trim off a piece to set aside to use for the flippers. The piece should be about equal to the piece of white that you had trimmed off earlier. Roll out the rest of the colored Model Magic as thin as you can without making it so thin that it breaks or has holes in it. When you peel it up from the plate, you should be able to see how nice and smooth it looks. Grab the large white piece that we started with that is going to be the main part of the penguin. Decide which side you think will be best for the front because that part is going to stay white. Lay this piece, which is the penguin's body, onto the flattened colored piece of Model Magic. Carefully and slowly wrap that piece around the body, almost like a hooded cape. Smooth and press along the edges, trying not to make any overlapping seams. There will be extra to cut off, and that's okay. Use your finger to smooth out any creases. Fold the extra amount underneath itself and try to shape it into a long tail. Use the scissors to trim this into a shorter tail and shape that even more with your fingers. Once you've done that, give the penguin a few taps on the work surface to make sure that the tail and the body sit nice and flat. Use a tool like a wooden craft stick to press in with the edge of the stick and separate the head from the rest of the body with just a slight indent. Don't go very deep at all, just a little bit. Grab the piece of white Model Magic that was set aside for the feet and the beak. Flatten it out and add some marker to colorize it. I'm using orange, but for an even darker orange, you could use orange and red combined. Once the color is mixed in, cut off a small piece to use for the beak. Roll that into a sphere and then tap it onto the work surface to flatten the bottom. Use a pinching hold with your fingers at the same time to make a conical form for the beak. Roll the rest of the orange Model Magic into a thick coil. Cut that into 2 equal pieces and roll each half into a sphere. Gently flatten each sphere just a little bit using the palm of your hand. Use the scissors to cut into each flattened sphere to make the toes. 2 little snips on the edge will make 3 toes. Yes, penguins have more than 3, but the Model Magic can be really fragile when pieces are too thin, and cutting more than 3 might make it get a little too thin. Shape the ends by pinching them with your fingers. Model Magic does stick to itself fairly well, but I like to make my sculptures a little more durable with glue and bracing. To attach the feet, apply some glue to the bottom of the penguin's body. Break a toothpick in half and push half a toothpick into the bottom where the feet will go so that just a little bit sticks out. Then gently press 1 foot onto each of those toothpicks. Give the feet a few taps on the work surface to make sure everything is flat and that the penguin will stand up. Add a dot of glue just above the indent of the penguin's neck where the beak will go. Push in half a toothpick, leaving just a little bit of the end sticking out. Position the beak over that and gently push it on, using your fingers to press around the sides where it attaches to the face. Grab the last of the white Model Magic. Squish and knead that. Roll it into a coil, and then taper each end by using a few fingers to roll just on each end to make them somewhat pointed. Cut this into 2 equal pieces. This is going to become the inner part of each flipper. Roll out a piece of the blue colored Model Magic so that it is really thin, just like we did before. Use the scissors to cut out a petal or feather-like shape. You're going to need 2 of them, so try to cut 2 that are the same size. Place the white flipper piece onto the cut color piece with the tapered end near the point. Smooth and wrap the color onto the white flipper, much like we did for the penguin's body. Then repeat this again for the second flipper. Visually measure the size of the flippers compared to the size of the penguin. Use scissors to trim the flippers shorter by cutting some off on the wider ends. Use your finger and thumb to make a slight indent on each side of the penguin's body where the flippers will go. Apply some glue where the indent is on one side. Then push in half of a toothpick so that just a little bit sticks out. Position the flipper onto the toothpick. Use your finger to smooth out the Model Magic along the top edge where the seam attaches to the body, and do the same thing for the other flipper. Either let the penguin completely harden, which should take about 2 days, or do the next part really carefully. Use a marker to add 2 dots for the iris color of the penguin's eyes above the beak, and then use a black marker to add the smaller pupils.